Hi, everybody. Welcome to the May 15th meeting of the City of Bloomington Plan Commission. I'm Jillian Kinsey, and I'm going to get us started here. And Brad Whistler is coming. Yes, he's coming. Yeah, we do expect him to be here. And then he will promptly relieve me of my temporary duties as the vice chair. All right, and I don't know if I need to be concerned that Jackie just ran out too. Oh, okay, this could be a technology challenge. Darn it. Yep. All right, well, we will sort of slowly get started given the technology potential challenge over at the table. But again, welcome. We will start. Eric, are you able to do a roll call, or do we need to wait? Okay, all right. Temporary pause here as we clean up the little water accident over at the table. It looks like we have at least a couple people in Zoom. Good, we're just on a temporary pause here for a moment.
So sorry, I forgot I had to call roll because Darla's not here.
Yep, okay, do you need another moment? We can take another
I think
moment.
we're okay.
All right.
All right. We can go ahead and get started.
All right, okay. So why don't, let me do a review then while we are waiting to officially call roll. So this is the May 15th meeting of the Bloomington Plan Commission. And we have a number of agenda items for today after we get through the roll call and minutes, et cetera. We will hear reports and resolutions and communications. We have one petition that's tabled that's been on here for a while, SP 2422. We have no items for the consent agenda tonight. And we have one petition, SP 13-23, Brownfields 4 LLC, a property on 229 West First Street. It's a site plan approval. So those are the items on the agenda today. And as I said, Brad Whistler, the chair or the president, is just going to be late, so he may come and relieve me of these duties here as we go. But we do have some people, it looks like, on Zoom, so that's great. And are we ready to call roll?
Yep. Sorry about that.
No, you're...
All right. We have Enright Randolph.
Here, and I will turn on my camera as needed.
Okay.
I have kind of poor connection, so.
Thanks. Great. Ballard.
Here.
Burrell. Here. Seabour.
Here.
Cockrum.
Here.
Korodke.
Here.
Kinsey.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
St. John.
Here.
And Whistler will be here later.
Okay, so we definitely have quorum. And we'll start with minutes. Okay, I noticed a couple of typos. I don't think they're not substantive. There is one, actually. Jackie, I think your last name got shortened to Scan at some point, and I think it should be Scanlon. So search for Scanlon and then, or search for Scan and then correct it to Scanlon. And then I think there was one other direct quote that came from Greg Alexander, who was president, and I think the word is indicated as garage in quotes, and I think it was actually, the word he used was actually garbage.
Okay, great.
So-
Thank you.
So with those two little corrections, I don't know if anybody else is ready to make a motion on minutes or has other corrections.
I'll move approval.
Thanks.
Second.
Thank you. Excellent. We have a motion and approval, and we still need to do a roll call vote for approval?
I think so, yes, since Tron is on Zoom.
Yep.
Ballard? Yes. Terrell?
Yes.
Seaboard?
Yes.
Cockrum?
Yes.
Korodke?
Yes.
Kinsey?
Yes?
Smith?
Yes.
And St. John.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, those get approved. All right. So do we have some reports, resolutions, and communications?
The only report we were going to give tonight, Jackie Scanlon, Development Services Manager, is that the council did see the parking maximum and chicken amendment. They tabled that petition, likely until at the earliest June, because they would potentially like to lower some of the maximums that we've proposed, is what was discussed at the meeting, and also discuss further the maximums that we increased and possibly not accept those. So if they make those changes, then you will see their proposed changes back here sometime this summer.
Okay, all right. Anybody else on the commission have any reports? All right, well, I actually have one. I've been trying to be dutiful about reporting out on my work with the Bloomington Monroe County Metropolitan Planning Organization, the BMC MPO. We met last Friday, so I'll just offer a couple of observations from that meeting. We did see the final Unified Planning Work Program for fiscal year 2024. It outlined a number of priorities for city and county. I suggest anybody read that if you have an interest in knowing what the priorities are for this larger work plan for city and county. And we also reviewed some interesting transportation improvement, the TIP amendments. And this included some really, I think I commented on this before, some interesting plans about electrical vehicle charging stations along I-69 that I think are interesting, and also some significant improvement investments. And I think those are important things for us to know are in the works. They're organized by the MPO group, but I think it's a positive development to see those improvements coming to our community. The other thing that we were notified in that meeting, and Jackie, I know this is not appropriate notice, but we were notified in the MPO meeting about the upcoming College and Walnut corridor studies, and I wonder if you or Eric might offer the upcoming charrette meeting date. Would that be relevant? Or, oh, Ryan's here. Oh, wait, Ryan, were you going to make a comment about this? Okay. May I impose upon you to offer that same information about the College and Walnut corridor study that's coming?
Yes. So Brian Roebling, Planning Services Manager. We are doing a College and Walnut corridor study, which we will be studying and you may remember from the transportation plan, the corridor from the bypass all the way south to, somewhere south. I forget. Sorry. There's a couple of events coming up. The big ones are the charrettes on June 13th and 15th. So please attend. They will be right here in this room at 6:30 or 5:30, excuse me. But yeah, we'll be reviewing or having the community come out and give a hopefully positive or helpful advice on what the corridor should look like. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this corridor study will be really important, and I encourage everyone who has a stake in what goes on in our College and Walnut corridor to join us for those charrette meetings. They're pretty lively, I think, and good for generating ideas. So, thank you. Anybody else have anything? Nothing? All right. Okay, nothing else from the desk. All right, so we can move forward. As I said, we already have petitions tabled today. The Cutters petition is tabled. No items for the consent agenda, so we might launch right in to our first petition. So, Eric, are you presenting SP 1323?
I am. So this is a
Street. Petitioner is requesting a major site plan approval to allow for a 14,170 square foot restaurant and meeting, banquet, or event facility at this location. So this is at the southeast corner of West First Street and South Monroe, or I'm sorry, Morton Street. The property is within our mixed-use downtown district. To the north, you have the Kroger. To the west and northwest and east and south are all surrounded by offices of various scope. And so the petitioner is proposing to renovate the existing building and site to turn it into a restaurant and meeting banquet facility. So some of you may be familiar with this location. It did come to the Plan Commission in 2015 for a similar review. Obviously, as nothing has happened, and it has still sat undeveloped in its current state. So the property's been developed or was previously developed with a industrial kind of warehouse distribution facility. There were some former storage tanks, above ground storage tanks on the front of the property that have been removed. So the petitioner would be renovating the existing structure predominantly as it sits right now. They would be adding new windows, obviously, and glass and doors. But the building is a contributing historic structure, so in terms of what they can do to it exterior-wise are limited in that capacity. So they would be renovating the interior, adding a patio on the north side of the building, and then a new parking area on the northeast and kind of east side for 36 parking spaces. Obviously, there would be substantial landscaping installed throughout the site to bring the property up into code compliance. The Beeline Trail runs along the west side of this property, and the petitioner is proposing to connect their patio that is on the north side of the building to the Beeline Trail through a small walkway. That will obviously have to be coordinated and approved by the Parks Commission prior to any work there, but the Parks Department certainly was very enthusiastic about a connection here to help users of the trail interact with this property a little bit better. The petitioner would also be required to install site improvements along First Street. This is also part of the corridor that the city will be doing improvements along First Street, starting at College and then proceeding west all the way down, I believe, to Wiley Street. But the petitioner would be responsible for the installing or coordinating with the city those specific improvements so that it's all done in kind of a cohesive manner. So along this property, I would just require a sidewalk and tree plot. And as I mentioned, we'll be coordinating that aspect with them. So in general, this particular petition is not complicated in any overall capacity. They're, predominantly using the site as it is, with the exception of the parking that will be added. The parking is located between the building and the street as a result of the location of the building that is at the far south end of the property. So they must receive a variance, which they have applied for and will be heard, I believe, in about a week and a half. So that is a separate process. But we are recommending approval. It does meet all of the requirements of the zoning code, pending the approval of that variance. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if the Planning Commission has any.
Thank you. Do we have a representative from the Brownfields 4 LLC group? And if you can go to the mic and state your name and.
Do you want me to write down my name on this little list?
Yes, that's part of it too. Yep, thank you for being compliant.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Butler. I'm with Bynum Faneuil and Associates. I'm the civil engineer on this project and kind of put together the project. I'm really starting, like you said, since 2015. With me tonight is Rudy and Kay Fields. So they're the ownership group. If you have any questions for them, feel free to ask as well. This, as Eric was stating, it's really an older building that's hungry for a facelift, ready to be something, ready to be used. And so there's going to be a renovation of this building, a remodel that would really put it to use. We're looking for some kind of restaurant, some kind of event center. I have not told Eric this. We would also like the possibility of it being a caterer. So I don't know if that changes anything, but I just want to make that clear as well. That's our intentions, that it may be one of those items. And as he stated as well, we want to use the building, put it to reuse as is, so that requires, parking to be a little in front of the building, but that will go in for a variance in a week and a half. But other than that, feel free to I'll answer any questions as needed.
Great. All right, thanks. Well, we'll move right to our questions. So anybody have questions on the right? Mr. Smith?
And thanks for the presentation. The site really needs something, and so I think it's great. The only concern I have was there was tanks there, so I'm not an engineer. Tell me what you've done to alleviate any of the issues that might be there from it, being a storage for oil or, for all these years.
Well, the good news is the ownership group is an environmental engineer, so he will handle that question.
Wonderful.
Yes, please say your name. and sign
My
in.
name is Rudy Fields. I'm not that tall. Yes, again, Rudy Fields. I'm retired now, but formerly I was owned Fields Environmental Incorporated. I'm an environmental consultant. I'm not an engineer, but I'm a geologist. It's different. I obtained the property through the Monroe County tax sale when it was still all the tanks were in the air and all that, and the materials were in the buildings. I ran an investigation and a remediation project through the Indiana Brownfields program. Obtained a no further action letter in 2015. It is deed restricted for non-residential land use, and that was more something, not as much of a problem as it was something for me to expedite the closure on the property. But we are good to go for the land use that we're attempting to go with, and site's good to go. Certainly, can provide any documentation you'd like as far as the no further action letter, any of the investigative documents. I spoke with the engineers department. There's a young lady there that I ran on, what was the lady? Sorry, can't remember the name. There's a very nice lady in the engineering department that had the same questions. I provided her copies of all the investigative reports, all the covenants, and all of the things that would be that we received for that.
If I may ask, what does no further action letter? What does that mean?
That means
to me.
To you, if you own a piece of property and you obtain a no further action letter, that means that you have satisfied the state IDEM in terms of the degree or the amount of investigation, the type of investigation, remediation if necessary, and the environmental restrictive covenants if required, the deed restrictions for non-residential land use, or we're also restricted for no wells for potable water. So it's a no-brainer, basically. Nobody's going to put in a well, and the best and highest use there, we believe, is commercial as well. So it's not a problem for us with the deed restrictions. They're in place. They ride with the property. If somebody buys it, they buy the deed restrictions as well.
Great, thank you, Mr. Fields. That's exactly what I needed to know.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, yeah. Go ahead.
I got two questions, and maybe first one is for staff. Just hearing that a potential slight change to the amendment is to allow the catering use. Just does that impact what we're reviewing today as Plan Commission?
Not technically, however, I do need to point out that food production and processing as a sole primary use is not a permitted use for this location. So they can have that as part of a restaurant. You know, obviously, there's nothing preventing a restaurant from preparing meals to, you know, take out to some degree, but it cannot be an exclusively, you know, food production or processing use.
Okay. And then,
But it does not change, to answer your question, it does not change what you're reviewing. You know, we would review that as a staff level to, you know, make sure that that's not a primary use, and, you know, if it's something that's happened as an ancillary use, that's fine, but it can't be the exclusive primary use.
okay, thank you. That makes perfect sense to me. And then another question, a different topic, is the site plan showing what seems like a really neat idea to connect to the Beeline. And just hypothetically, if for some reason some issue popped up where that connection is not possible, is then some type of sidewalk connection to First Street required? That's the sole connection for pedestrians, and I just wanted to make sure that something will be there.
Yeah, our preference obviously is to have the connection to the Beeline right to the garden out there, so you could walk right in and, or park your bike and come in. It's just more user-friendly. But if that wasn't available, we do currently have a route that's connected, even with our site plan now currently, from the First Street sidewalk that will be connected to the Beeline as well. So yes, that would be an option too for us if that wasn't allowed.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Burrell, anything? Nothing? Okay. I actually have a follow-up, so since I'm going to go in order here, the Beeline access was also a question that I had. What is the approval, and this might be staff or petitioner in this one, what is the approval, or what's the process for assuring that any access to a property on the Beeline is appropriately made? What is the process for
So
that?
they would just go to the Parks Commission
Okay.
for approval to, you know, do work on a parks facility. So it's separate from the Plan Commission, so
Yeah.
we just go to the Parks Commission.
Okay. And can you say anything about current plans? Is it just a access point? Is it a doorway? Is it a path? Or what, anything that you know?
So what they've shown right now is just a path, and I'm
Okay.
sorry, I can put this back up on the screen. But what they've shown is just a path connecting to the patio, so
Okay.
not the building per
Okay.
se, but just a portion of the patio would be connected.
Okay, great.
I'll also follow up with more information on that. The desire is maybe to gate it to make sure that no one gets in there in non-hours.
Okay.
So there'll be a gate of some sort there that access that patio.
Okay. All right. To the patio. Okay, all right. Other questions on this end? Yeah, Chris?
For Mr. Fields, follow up on the environmental. You say no further action. Does that mean there's no wells or any monitoring equipment? It's just, yeah.
Nothing else required. We've abandoned all the monitoring wells as per IDNR guidelines, and everything's closed and ready to go.
Okay, cool. And then the other question is, so really, the intended use, but you don't have a tenant yet, or you don't have this is who you'd like to attract to the building? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we want something that's going to be cool.
Okay.
We want something that somebody comes in and does something that makes this place memorable. This building is remarkable. I mean, John D. Rockefeller was a principal owner when this thing was built. And it's just cool, and it's just got a real neat vibe, and our plans, you know, if we can find the right people to come in there, I think we can do something that'll just rock.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Anything?
This is for staff, probably, that connects to the Beeline, it would be like ADA accessible and all of that? I assume it would?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
By definition. Okay. And then also, I just want to clarify, I think it's just a typo, but on the top of page 5, it's the 150-foot separation requirement of the driveway from Morton Street, right, not Monroe?
No. Yeah.
Correct, yeah, from Morton
Okay,
Street.
it says Monroe,
Oh,
so,
I'm sorry.
no, it's no big deal, I just want to make sure. I thought,
Yes, Morton Street.
yeah, great, from Morton. Okay, great, awesome. Thank you.
All right, okay, so I had one other question about, well, maybe two, okay. So one question is about the coordination of the city developments on First Street. Are the renovations proposed on First Street on both the north and the south side of First Street, or does it only affect the south side where this property is?
So the city's improvements will be the entire corridor, north and south side of the street, including the street itself, all the way, I believe, from College west to Wiley Street. So yes, it's on the south side, including this property, and the north side.
Okay. And does that mean, I know we're not here to discuss other properties, but indulge me here, if you will, this means the backside of Kroger's will also get some
Yes.
sort of sidewalk improvement, and I imagine a wider sidewalk. Is that true or no?
I can't speak to that specificity. I just don't have those plans in front of me. Our transportation engineer might be able to answer that.
I can look that up. I don't know by memory, but.
Okay, yeah, I just think about that in relation to the patio that's proposed and the landscaping that will occur per the UDO for this property on the south side. And then if, it would be nice if those could be parallel or at least done with the same consideration, I think, to make them look like they're compatible too. That's all. Yep, but obviously we can't control what happens on that side. The other question I have, though, is a little bit more about the parking. And it makes sense, obviously, the parking has to go, and I think it's actually quite interesting to have it on the east side, as it's indicated, and then partly, I guess, in the front a little bit. But is this, how does that affect the drive cut? This is moving the drive cut then a little bit east, is that correct on there?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you want, is there no concerns about that? That seems like a better cut for that space?
Well, so
and-
if, from a UDO perspective, it meets the separation requirements from the adjacent drives and the street intersections. Line of sight, I don't think there's any line of sight issues along First Street. It's pretty flat. The location of it is, pretty much up to the petitioner. It meets the various standards that the UDO has. So that was just kind of their choice to move that a little bit east to align with where their parking is.
Great, okay. All right, nothing else from petitioner? You're okay with all of this?
I'll just add to that, it was from a transportation engineer perspective as well, we'd want a little more room from the B line where people are trying to cross, and plenty of room that, you're pulling out of Morton possibly. I know there's a bus route right there, so having, a little room there, and then also, we don't want parking necessarily right in front of this building we're about to renovate with this garden. So from that perspective too, it was an aesthetic purpose.
Great, good, okay. All right. No, if there are no further questions, we can move to anybody in person or on Zoom who actually wants to ask a question or make a comment about this. Oh, please, yeah, sorry.
Just thinking about the parking, Commissioner Kinsey made me remember, I wanted to ask, so there's this wall on the east side of the property, it looks like and then there's a bunch of green space, and then the next building, I think, is that Clean Slate or something like that. So that wall, the parking would be beyond that wall, east of the building. And doesn't that drop down? It's quite a bit lower than the rest of the building, and what would you do there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we want to get a little creative on making sure that when someone was parking here, that there wasn't, everyone could access this property from the parking area. And also from a UDO perspective, we can only go so steep with the slope of the parking lot. And so to get some parking in there, double loaded, with a drive that's going down the center, as you can see, it required that more or less it was elevated. I believe that wall is no taller than about 4 to 5 feet at the maximum. Now that we are showing some drainage facilities right on the other side, on the lower side of that wall on the east side, We may move some of that so it's not encouraging water to pond right below the wall. Instead, we may add another small drainage facility more on the west side, the northwest side of the drive, to make sure that all of our storm water is not going into First Street and treat everything that's coming off of this site. That was the idea for now, but we might adjust that. But you're correct that that is an elevated parking lot as compared to the east property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We're ready to move to any comments from the audience in person or on Zoom. If you want to make a comment, you have 5 minutes. And all we ask is that you approach the podium and state your name, and then you can say whatever you're here to talk about.
Okay, we have one on Zoom.
All right.
Mr. Ash, you should be able to unmute, and you'll have 5 minutes.
I won't take that long. As a neighbor, this has been a long time coming, and we're extremely enthusiastic about this adaptive reuse of a quaint historic property. Thank you.
And just for the record, if you're still unmuted, if you could say your name. Oh, hold on.
Looks like we might have one more.
Paul Ash.
Paul Ash, thank you.
Yep, there you go. Great.
McDowell
Thank you.
Gardens Neighborhood Association. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ash.
Mr. McKim, you should be able to unmute.
Thank you very much, Jeff McKim, and I'll also be very brief. I'm not a resident. I'm a frequent user of the Beeline, however, and have been passing this building for many years, and I just want to support this exciting adaptive reuse project. I think the Beeline also lacks restaurants and beer gardens and that sort of thing for users to partake in, and so I think this sounds like a great project. So I encourage you to pass it, and I can't wait to see what the petitioner does with it.
Thank you, Jeff McKim. Thank you. Anybody else? I still see something there. Do we have, is that someone who needs to make a comment? No.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No one else on Zoom.
All right, if there isn't anyone else on Zoom, and it looks like we've exhausted the participants in the room, maybe, okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
May I add one more comment?
Yep.
I just talked with the ownership group, and they are amenable to the caterer. If you were to approve it with a caterer use, that is more of an ancillary use rather than the primary use, they're amenable to that. I know Eric just indicated that wouldn't be allowed for the property. We just wanted to add that. We just discussed that right now.
Yeah, so Jackie Scanlon, Development Services Manager, you can't approve a use. So if it's allowed by code, they'll be able to do it. And if it's not, they won't. And so that's something, that maybe you'll take a little deeper, Eric will need to take a little bit of a deeper dive at a future date since it just came up at this hearing. But yeah.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yep, thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Okay. So hearing nothing or no other comments, we're ready for some either, go ahead.
Tron would like to.
Oh, sorry, Tron, sorry.
No worries at all. Everyone had asked the questions I were wanting to ask, and thank you for that. And also thanks to Mr. Daniel Butler for expanding on some of the potential bioretention. I thought that was a good idea to consider because of the slope or the change of grade. I'm just really ecstatic about this, and I'm excited to see this petition here today. Actually, one of the gentlemen that spoke during the public comment served on the Alternative Transportation Committee with me for several years, and we've talked about this probably for about 6 years, and I think this is a great addition to the community. I'm an avid runner, so I pass that building every day, and the petitioner representative did a great job. Thanks everyone for your great questions, and I didn't want to bother the last round because I didn't have any questions after everyone spoke. And I think the idea to make something cool is just a great way of looking at this space. So I just really wanted to express my enthusiasm towards this project. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anybody else have a comment to my right? Okay. Any other comments about this proposal? Or further questions? If not, we can entertain a motion if someone would like to make one.
I'll move to approve the petition. Hold on. I pressed unmute too quickly, sorry. SP 13-23.
Excellent. So we're approving it with a favorable recommendation and with the conditions?
Hold on,
Correct.
we're just going to try to share this quickly with the
I think
room.
you have to adopt the proposed findings. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, so we'll,
Right, with the the 5 recommendations.
Based on the findings in the report, if that's okay.
based on the findings and the 5 recommendations indicated. Great. Do we, any second on this one?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Tim. All right. Okay, so it sounds like this is a really favorable proposal. Anytime a proposal comes to us that's described as making something cool and that it will really rock, I suppose, those are very favorable conditions upon which to approve a property. And the fact that other folks are calling in, declaring this adaptive reuse very cool and imagining what it could entail, I think this is really exciting. So I hope we can move forward with this one. So
I would just add to that, we had, I think, 2 people comment, but I think it's because people don't know this was on the agenda. And if the wider public in Bloomington knew, there would be a resounding number of people who would be excited about your project because it is so clearly a part of the Beeline and clearly in need of its next phase in life. And this sounds like a really exciting proposal. So thanks for bringing it.
all right, if we're ready to take a real vote on this, we can do it.
All right, the motion is for approval of the site plan based on the findings of fact with the conditions in the report. Seabour,
Yes.
Cockrum,
Yes.
Ko-Rodke,
Yes.
Kinsey,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
St. John,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
and Burrell.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, this is very exciting. All right. So that was it, folks. That's our whole agenda. Okay, hard to believe. I know. Brad's going to be very disappointed that he missed this short meeting. Okay, we are officially adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thanks.